Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Twin Cities-based jazz guitarist Zacc Harris. We had a good talk about his latest 2021 CD, Small Wonders, with the Zacc Harris Group. It's the band's second album and his third as a leader. The Southern California-raised musician is among the Twin Cities' most revered guitarists, full of great stories and insights. Enjoy.
I'm good. Hey, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Small Wonders. Talk to me a little bit about the new album. You know, it's obviously there's many layers to any project like this, but I guess the elephant in the room is COVID. It's coming out during a global pandemic. You know, maybe a month ago we thought things were getting a little bit better, and now we're back in that ambiguous gray area. So talk to me about what this means to, you know, even have the opportunity to do live music, communicate with the fans. What's this release mean for you?
Yeah, well, it's 2 years in the making. I mean, we recorded it back in August 2019, and it was supposed to come out last fall, but we decided to just hold it back and kind of see what happened. And then, as you were saying, it was kind of looking like things were going to be cool this fall, and so a few months ago we went ahead and decided to go for it. And, you know, I'm still hopeful that things will be okay, that you know, we're just going to have to continue to be cautious. We've got some tour dates lined up, so I'm hoping those can still go through, and, you know, we just might have to wear masks for a little longer from the sounds of it. So, but it's really important, I think, to just get the music out there at some point, and this seems like as good a time as any, given the circumstances.
So shine a light a little bit on the cats that were around you on this album and what it means to get this project out with the sound that it has and just kind of the overall visceral vibe.
Yeah, well, this, you know, the Zacc Harris Group, as I call it, is really at its core just the quartet of myself, Brian Nichols on piano, Chris Bates on bass, and JT Bates on drums. Over the years, sometimes we've added a horn. The first record we put out with this group was called The Garden in 2012, and we added Brandon Wozniak on tenor sax for a lot of the tunes on that one, who's somebody I play with a lot in a group called Atlantis Quartet. For this record, I really wanted to try to kind of expand the sound even more and add a second horn. I called up John Raymond, who is a great trumpet player originally from here in the Twin Cities, where I'm at, and he's been in New York, and now he teaches at Indiana. And I asked him to come and participate on the session, and he and Brandon in particular, just those two horns together, they just sound so great together. And I tried to give them a lot of freedom to kind of play with some of the parts, and they did an amazing job. And I'm really excited with the way it turned out and to be doing these dates with them this fall.
What do you want the listener to get from this album? How do you want them to feel about what you put out?
Well, I want them to feel good about it, obviously. These songs are all songs that I think are more personal to me, or I think maybe reflect a more intimate side of my own kind of musical personality than some of the stuff I write for other groups that I play in, for example. I guess I'm hopeful that people feel the emotion, you know. I think sometimes modern jazz can just almost be an exercise in technique rather than trying to get across an emotion. And with a lot of these tunes, there's, you know, some deeper meaning behind them. For those who don't know, the album cover has a picture of my kids on it, kind of like a silhouetted thing. And part of the narrative behind this record is that, you know, we put out our first record in 2012, and a few months later, I had my first child. It became a lot more difficult to churn out new tunes and get into the studio with this project. I have other things always going on as well. So this is kind of like the point where now my kids are at an age where I can kind of focus on some of my solo projects again and try and get them out there and get out of the house. And a couple of the songs are even kind of inspired somewhat directly by my kids on there. So
yeah, they do that to you for sure. Talk to me a little bit about, you know, all our foundations have been shaken quite hard, and I think as an artist, you know, the thing is that the community is going to come back in a very different way prior to 2020. How do you see yourself coming back, either stronger or more equipped, things you may do differently as you approach the stage in the studio, and just overall, like, what did you learn about yourself during this time that maybe you didn't realize before?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, just over this past year and change, I think I, like a lot of musicians, have gone through a lot of different phases. When everything first shut down and all the gigs started getting canceled, I just kind of put away my arch top for a while and just only played acoustic guitar for a few months, because I didn't see the point in like focusing on the thing I had been so wrapped up in for so long that all of a sudden was kind of taken away, like playing interactive music. And so I just focused on acoustic guitar. And then of course I told myself, like, all right, now I'm going to get into the woodshed and emerge from this thing next year like a whole new player. And that didn't really happen, dealing with the pandemic and, basically having my kids and everybody here at the house all the time. It was just really hard to kind of create that space. So what ended up happening, I think, was that a little bit of time away kind of changed some of my perspective. And when things did start to open up again and I got vaccinated and started getting back out and playing some things, it took some time to kind of get the chops back. But what I noticed right away was just that I was playing new ideas and coming at the instrument and the music from a little different angle. So musically, I think that just stepping back for a minute was actually maybe a really good thing. In terms of the profession itself, I think that there's just so much still up in the air, that it's going to be a while. I mean, I was hopeful that things would be kind of back to normal, but I've been telling everybody I know that I don't think it's going to be until this time next year maybe that we might kind of get there. But I am an optimist, and I'm hoping that, these tour dates that we have will continue to happen. And I've been really busy this summer playing a lot, and I'm hoping that can continue in some capacity as well.
So you're up there in the Twin Cities. Talk to me a little bit about, we all have this moment where we get the jazz and it becomes that lifelong addiction. What happened for you? How did this all start? Kind of what was your childhood like, influences, those kinds of things?
I'm kind of unusual, I think, compared with a lot of my peers and colleagues, in that I came to music pretty late. I grew up in Southern California and then moved across the country to Charlottesville, Virginia as a kid. And I didn't play any instrument until I was 16. I had a friend who had started playing guitar, and I thought to myself, yeah, that looks fun. I want to try that. And I asked my folks for the guitar, and they obliged. And even still, like, I wasn't really like digging into jazz. I was aware of some of the classic jazz, Miles and Coltrane and Monk and all that stuff, and thanks to my parents' record collection, but I wasn't trying to play it in any capacity. It wasn't until I was 19 and I had kind of, gone to college, dropped out of college, traveled around the U.S. for a while, and ended up in Southern Illinois, a town called Carbondale. I put together a band. As a teenager, I was really into kind of things like the Grateful Dead and Fish and things like that, which, at their core are improvisational styles of music. And I put together a band like that with some guys in this town, and it turned out that they were all basically the rhythm section in the jazz department at the university. And so those guys really kind of got me into the music. We became friends, and they taught me some things, and then basically convinced me to go to school for music. So I went back to school, and that's what I did. And I think the record that really kind of did it for me, though, was a record called Full House by Wes Montgomery, which is a live recording from Suvo's, I think, out in the Bay Area. I checked it out from the college library, and I never returned it. I think it cost me like $130 or something like that in late fees. But yeah, that record, I basically had it on repeat for 2 years, just listening over and over. And that was what really got me in. And then once I was in, I kind of felt like I had a lot of catching up to do because the folks that I was going to school with, had been playing, most of them, since they were in middle school or even elementary school. And so then I just started, spending all my time in the practice room trying to get my thing together.
What was the first live jazz show that really blew you away?
I saw some stuff. I think the one that blew me away the most was seeing Pat Martino at the Bistro in St. Louis. And that basically kind of kicked off a Pat Martino obsession for me that went on for a number of years. And I would say that was probably the first one that got me.
What do you like the best about waking up every day, knowing that you can create music, being a musician? What is it about this that you love the most?
I think it's exactly that, this idea of creating. I like making things. I like building stuff. Even as a kid, before I was into music, I would make comic books and build things. And the idea of being able to create just kind of makes it where every day has endless possibilities. There's barriers in there. Life gets in the way a lot, but the idea of being able to make something, whether it's, a new tune or eventually a record, we all know that the record business isn't a big thriving source of revenue really these days, but it's still important to me to be able to make something that will hopefully, last beyond my lifetime.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life and you have a perception of you. Who do you think you are?
Wow. Coming in hard with those, Joe.
Yeah, I saved the best for last.
Yeah, that's good. Who do I think I am? It's interesting because I think sometimes as musicians, we get caught up in this idea of intermingling being a musician with our identity. And obviously that's inescapable to an extent, but I've had conversations with musician friends where I think it's unhealthy to just solely be that, So I think that if other people were to say, who is that guy, they would say, well, he is a father. He's a person who likes to bring people together. My friends know me as a avid soccer fan and recreational player. And then also a musician, somebody who likes to bring people together in that space, whether it's by creating different bands, projects, or by, making and putting out new music. So I hope that's how people see me, and not necessarily in that order, but in those combination of things.
Beautiful. Zacc, thank you for taking a minute out to talk about the album and your life in music. I appreciate it. Good luck with everything.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in the Twin Cities, Southern California, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Zacc for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.